I thought about this the other day. It's crazy how quickly things could change in this world, right? I mean, think about it for a second. 7 months ago, coronavirus was just beginning in China. We knew nothing about it. We didn't care enough to know anything about it. And now look at our lives. Look at what's happened in the past 6 or 7 months. We went from normalcy to now sitting inside a house doing nothing. A lot of people lost jobs. People don't have any money. We can't go and do things as freely as we wanted to. I mean, it's crazy to think about how quick things have changed. One thing happens, and that sets in motion more and more things, and it changes more and more lives. The same could be said about the Chicago Bulls. 6 or 7 months ago, there was no hope and no direction for this organization. I remember it. We talked about it on this show. Jim Boylan was still the head coach. The Bulls chose not to fire him. They didn't want to. And John Paxson still ran the day-to-day operations up in the front office. There was no direction for this team. They were losing. The quote-unquote rebuild had not worked. They were rock bottom in the NBA. There was not a franchise that was even close to where the Bulls were back in January and February. No franchise, nothing. Nothing compared to how low the Bulls really were. On this show and other shows alike in this city, nationally, everyone called for Jim Boylan's firing. Everyone demanded that there needed to be some change because there was nothing doing. No hope. Their best player was Zach LaVine. And Lauri Markkanen had regressed. All of the young guys were regressing under Jim Boylan. That was not the plan. And you had to wonder, what was going on inside the Bulls organization? What does the future look like? Why do they still have Jim Boylan? There were so many questions, no answers, and no hope for that team. Then what happened? During the pandemic, when the Bulls were not invited to go to the bubble, they had a chance to sit down and really think about their future, probably for the first time in a while, and ask the question, where the hell are we going? What the hell are we doing? And when they got that opportunity, they acted decisively and right away. They hired Arturas Karnisovas. They hired Mark Eversley. They fired Jim Boylan. And now they've hired Billy Donovan to be the team's new head coach. This team's stock went from down here all the way up here. They went from the most hopeless team in the NBA to now the team with the most hope moving forward. They may not be a title contender come next year. They might not even make the playoffs next year. But now there's a defined direction. Now we know what the Bulls have planned, or at least we have an idea. They grabbed a great coach. They grabbed a guy who's a 2-time national champion. They grabbed a guy who led the Thunder to the playoffs every year despite losing KD and Russ. Does anyone remember last offseason? I do. I remember when Russ left, the trade was completed, the Thunder got Chris Paul, and at the time everyone said Chris Paul is not staying with that ragtag bunch. He will leave. They are finding a trade partner as we speak. Remember everybody said that? That didn't happen. With that roster, consisting of essentially Chris Paul and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who turned it on last year, there was nothing on that team. Nothing. And they got the number 2 seed. They were one of the top teams in the NBA. Think about that. Think about the West. Think about how talented that conference is. Think about the players that Oklahoma City had. And think about where they ended up. I'm not here to discuss the first round exit, and I'm not here to try and defend and get into a rabbit hole about Billy Donovan's playoff problems and losses. He's never had a real group that was capable of getting to the finals, except his first year with KD and Russ, and they made it to the Western Conference Finals. That was the only year in which you could definitively say they probably should have been there. So I'm not here to talk about his playoff struggles. I'm not here to try and defend anything. I'm not here to compare him to Marvin Lewis, right? We're not here to do that. We're here to talk about a great coaching job that he's done with the Thunder after losing your top players. Kevin Durant defects to the Warriors. They're still a good team. Russell Westbrook leaves for Houston. And you know what? They're still a good team. They didn't spend any money. They didn't attract any big-name free agents. They just won with the roster they had. There was no complaining, no crying, no asking for new players. Players on the team weren't unhappy. There was no mutiny like we saw here when the Bulls hired Jim Boylen. They just played. No distractions, no flashiness, but they did good. And they nearly took down a Rockets team that had James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Think about that. That is huge. Billy Donovan was probably the best hire you could have made if you were the Chicago Bulls. Former college coach, national champion. Helped develop young players in Oklahoma City. Now he gets the chance to do the same. And there's a lot at stake. There are a lot of guys who need work. I mentioned this when we talked with George Hoffman. We'll get to that soon here. We talked about this a bit. I believe Lauri Markkanen is now Mitchell Trubisky. Think about it. Trubisky played under John Fox. That obviously did not go well. Matt Nagy came in, revitalized him. Then he regressed again. Now he's done. This year was Trubisky's prove-it year. We all know that. Option declined. This is it for Trubisky. I think the same could be said for Lauri Markkanen. This is now his third coach. Rookie year, not bad, under Fred Hoiberg. Sophomore season does good amidst a coaching change, and this past season steeply regressed. Now we're entering year 4 with Lauri Markkanen, a top pick, number 7. At the time, he was supposed to be one of the top players on this team. He was drafted at that spot for a reason. And now we're in year 4, and we really haven't seen much from him. He has regressed. I think it's time to say, is he the next Mitchell Trubisky? This is his prove-it year, now under Billy Donovan. Donovan is known for working well with young players. He's developed so many talented guys out at OKC. He's done it in college. Remember the Joakim Noah years back at Florida? I think it's time to say that about Lauri Markkanen. Can he rebound? This is eerily similar to Mitchell Trubisky, in fact. Think about it. Trubisky's rookie year, not that good. Sophomore year, new coach, great. Then he regressed. Now, obviously, in his prove-it year, he's been benched. Lauri Markkanen, first year did good second year with a new coach, then regressed completely. And now it's year 4 for a top pick who was supposed to be a cornerstone for this franchise. It's not crazy to say that this is a prove-it year under a new coach in Billy Donovan, a guy renowned for working with young players and developing them. So this upcoming season is actually serious. It's not just about Billy Donovan fitting in and seeing how the Bulls do and judging them by a record. It's about development. A lot of these guys are now going to be with their second or third coach. Wendell Carter, new coach. Kobe White, new coach. How will they respond? They're not in Markkanen's position, but they could be if things go awry next year. So I'm happy for Billy Donovan. I'm happy to see the Bulls make a calculated, good decision for once. But let's be weary of what's on the line here. Let's be cognizant of what's to come. Lauri Markkanen is Mitchell Trubisky right now. He's entering a prove-it year. He was a top pick. He was supposed to be a cornerstone of the franchise. That hasn't worked out yet. We've seen flashes, don't get me wrong, but we haven't seen the finished product. I don't know if we will. I think that question will be answered in the upcoming season. But now there's really no more excuses for him. Like before, you could blame Boylen or the midseason coaching change a couple of years ago. You could say Boylen did not use him right. That is 100% true. I don't know what Boylen was doing out there. But now you have an established coach with a track record. We know what Billy Donovan has done. We know his reputation with young guys especially. Back at Florida. Now at OKC. This is Lauri Markkanen's chance. No more excuses. No more coaching problems. No more regression. You either have to perform or you're done. And I think that's a fair assessment. That's not harsh. Okay, this team is moving for once in the right direction. All of the holdovers from the Boylen and Hoiberg years, they have to prove that they still belong with the new Bulls, the new-looking Bulls. Because they could easily just start another rebuild and have Karnišovas lead it. And I don't think many people would be objected to that. I certainly wouldn't. Let the guy do his thing. So the holdovers have to prove their worth. Lauri Markkanen really has to prove his worth. This year, under Donovan. No exceptions, no excuses, no issues, no problems, no regression. This is it. Prove to everybody that you were worthy of that 7th overall pick. Prove to everyone that, yes, you can be a cornerstone of this franchise. We've seen flashes to his credit. It's not like he's been a bust yet. But this is a big year, and there's no question. The regression from last year was drastic. Ask anybody around the team, around the league. It was drastic. You can't have that happen again under a coach who's known to be good at developing talent, young talent. It's partially understandable with Jim Boylen. Don't get me wrong. That guy is not a good influence on any player, especially young players. But now the Bulls have made the right decision. They brought in a guy who has a track record, who knows what he's doing, who's won national championships, who's done good things with young talent specifically. Now it's up to Lauri Markkanen to live up to his end of the bargain. It's Mitchell Trubisky 2.0. Tell me I'm wrong. There are so many parallels between those two situations. And I would hope that Markkanen does not face Trubisky's fate. I would hope that instead we see Markkanen embrace Billy Donovan and really become that great player that we all know he can be. More to come here on Sports Talk Chicago. My interview with George Hoffman comes up next, so stay tuned.